From above, the Americas stretch across mountains, forests, deserts, and long coastlines. On camera, pyramids rise from dry plateaus. City monuments cast straight shadows across public squares. Flags move in the heat above crowded streets. Wings slipping through the canopy. Small bodies rising on warm updrafts. Calls traveling across cliffs, valleys, and wetlands. These patterns don't belong to any nation, yet every region across the hemisphere carries its own colors and behaviors. Tracking through treetops, the camera picks up flashes of red, green, blue, and black as they move between branches. A change in elevation shifts the entire cast. Coastal mangroves, high cloud forests, and southern wetlands, each holding birds shaped by their landscapes. Subscribe to BBTV Official and explore the Americas from above. Discover the vibrant life and hidden wonders that await in every corner of this vast hemisphere. A burst of blue snaps across the shrubs. Then a clean strike of red and a brush of green disappear just as quickly. Locals call him nonpareil, without equal, because no other bird in North America looks painted straight from a child's coloring book. Yet, for all that brightness, he prefers to hide low in dense thickets, singing loudly while staying almost invisible. Finding one isn't just spotting a bird. It's winning a small challenge set by the understory itself. Up close, each block of color reveals a purpose. Young males stay green for nearly 2 years. Bright colors attract mates, but they also attract hawks. And this species never forgets. It is small. Even a confident adult will slip back into cover after a short display, flick its wings once and vanish again into the leaves. People living across the American South know the feeling well. You hear the painted bunting before you ever see the flash. There was a time when this beauty came at a cost. In the late 1800s, thousands were trapped and shipped to Europe as cage birds. A single male could sell for 100 times the price paid in New Orleans. That trade faded, but new pressures replaced it. Shrinking habitat and migration hazards leave fewer places for the bunting to hide. So when a flash of blue-red-green cuts through the brush today, it's more than decoration. It's a survivor reminding the forest that color still lives here. A flash of red sweeps across the canopy, then curves upward in a tight arc that shouldn't be possible for a bird this small. The shape hesitates mid-air, wings buzzing, before dropping into a patch of lehua blossoms. Whatever you expect from an American forest doesn't apply here. This color and this motion belong to Hawaii alone. The iiwi, Drapanis coccinea, settles on a thin branch, its body held light and forward. The habitat around it is a mix of native ohia and mamani trees, cloud-washed slopes, and patches of fog that drift through the upper elevations of the islands. Even in this dim light, the bird's outline stays sharp. Crimson body, black wings, and a long, down-curved bill that seems oversized for its frame. Seen closer, the details fall into place. The bill's curve isn't decorative. It matches the depth and angle of tubular nectar flowers that few other birds can reach. The glossy red plumage forms from carotenoid pigments extracted from nectar-rich diets, but the exact shade varies with seasonal food quality. Tiny structural patterns on the wing feathers absorb more light than they reflect, giving the black sections a matte, almost velvety texture. Its feeding is precise. The bird slips between blossoms, inserting its bill deep into each tube while its tongue flicks out in rapid strokes to pull nectar. When disturbed, it launches at an angle, wings beating in a high-frequency blur that lets it hover just long enough to choose its next flower. During breeding season, males chase each other through open gaps in the canopy, producing sharp electronic chirps, tones that ring like clipped laser pulses. One last hover, a tilt of the wings, and the red form dissolves into the mist, as if pulled back into the mountain clouds. A shadow crosses the canyon wall, waist-heed, slow, silent. A California condor slips past the cliff edge, wings stretched to almost 3 meters, filling the frame like a moving doorway. The feathers lift in the updraft. The bald head tilts downward as it scans the canyon floor. Tracking from below, the bird barely flaps. It simply glides, carving lines through the heat rising off the rocks. For the peoples of the American West, this bird wasn't just large, it was a presence. Rock carvings show silhouettes with oversized wings, recorded long before modern science counted species. Early settlers described it as the giant nobody meets twice, a creature that defined distance and wilderness. Even today, rangers call it a symbol of everything the West once was: open, harsh, and alive on the wind. The condor lands on a sunlit perch and spreads its wings wide. It holds still for nearly 2 hours, a daily sun bath that heats the feathers and kills surface bacteria. Close up on the legs, a green tag, part of the program that saved the entire species when only 23 birds remained. In captive release facilities, scientists use fake eggs to trick breeding pairs into laying again, doubling offspring numbers in a season. Back in the wild, the condor roams up to 100 miles in a day, searching for carcasses with nothing more than sight and rising air. The condor lifts into the updraft and rises out of frame. It shouldn't exist anymore, not with numbers that once fit in a single room. Yet, here it is, floating above the canyon like it never left. A streak of black and yellow slips across a low thicket and stops on an exposed branch. The orange wash on its chest catches the light, and the dark spots stand out sharply each time it shifts its weight. Its head lifts, the eyes scan the garden edge, and the contrast between bright plumage and dense foliage pulls attention instantly. In many parts of Mexico, this species is familiar enough that people describe its calls as a backyard sound, the marker of early summer mornings. It appears in local folk art as a neighborhood bird, a species that chooses to live close to human activity rather than deep inside the forest. The spot-breasted oriole mimics other birds, but always adds a distinctive rise and fall that makes its voice easy to identify. When foraging, it probes leaves with quick, deliberate movements, pausing whenever a faint insect vibration comes through. Its tolerance for human presence keeps it near homes, where it feeds on ripe fruit, nectar, and trapped insects along vines and flowering shrubs. At close distance, Each short, sharp note is clear, including the mimicry patterns woven into its calls. Most birds sing to defend territory. This one sings to show off its unmistakable Mexican accent. And once you hear it, you realize style can be just as important as color. A small green shape slips between the branches, glowing like a fresh leaf caught in a beam of light. The name Chlorophonia comes from Greek, yellow-green sound, a reference to the bird's vivid colors long before scientists understood anything else about it. In the high-elevation cloud forests of southern Mexico and Guatemala, this bright crown of blue and green often appears in pairs or small groups, turning a fruiting tree into a quiet, moving cluster of color. Most of their life happens high in the canopy, where moss and orchids cling to the branches. But during certain seasons, these birds drift lower, visiting hillside coffee farms in short, careful flights. Their presence signals something simple but important. The surrounding forest is still intact enough to feed them. Their role in that forest is larger than their size suggests. Every berry swallowed becomes a seed launched into new soil, making the species a reliable planter for cloud forest trees. Of the 5 Chlorophonia species in the world, this is the one that ranges farthest north, adapting not only to natural forests, but also to man-made groves and old coffee plantations. Each brief flash of neon green marks another seed dispersed, another patch of forest renewed. A bird that looks like decoration turns out to be quiet infrastructure, one of the smallest, brightest reforesters Central America still has. A fan of iridescent eye spots lifts and spreads, each feather catching the light with shifting greens, blues, and bronze. The bird steps forward, its tail opening wider. The pattern so crisp, it looks like printed graphics. Then a low mechanical sputter breaks the stillness, a call that sounds uncannily like a motorcycle trying to start. In the lowland forests of the Yucatan, this species has long appeared in carvings and textiles. Local communities recognize it instantly by the gemstone-like eye spots on its tail and the bright nodules of blue and orange skin across its head. For many Maya artisans, its feathers were more than decoration. They were symbols of the forest's wealth and a reminder of how color travels through generations. The bird walks with short, deliberate steps, scanning leaf litter for seeds, insects, and small fruits. During display season, males circle females with stiff, exaggerated strides, tail raised and vibrating. The tail's ocelli, the eye-like marks, aren't just for show. Their symmetry helps females judge health and age. The male's vocalization is unexpected. Instead of a deep gobble, his call starts with a soft hiss and then jumps into a sharp, engine-like burst. Its legs gleam with a waxy red sheen, and the spurs are long, dangerous in fights between rival males. And the twist? For all the loud colors and noisy displays, this bird can vanish instantly. A single step into shade, and the bright tail that looked like a graphic artifact collapses into the forest floor, leaving only silence where the motorbike turkey stood a second earlier. The bird lifts its head, and the bill takes over the frame, long, oversized, painted in yellow, lime green, orange, and a slice of crimson. Light rolls across the surface, revealing hard edges that look heavy but move with surprising ease. When the toucan hops sideways along a branch, the bill tilts and flexes as if it were just another feather, not a structure longer than its entire skull. Across Costa Rica, the bird is treated almost like a national emblem of tropical life. It appears in school murals, tourist carvings, and even on roadside cafes, not because it is rare, but because it represents the country's reputation for color and rainforest diversity. For many locals, the toucan's bill isn't just anatomy, it's a reminder that the lowland forest still holds species that feel larger than reality. Despite its size, the bill is astonishingly light, about the weight of a thin sandwich slice, built from a foam-like lattice of keratin. It works as a heat radiator when the forest turns humid, flushing warm blood through the surface to cool the bird without wasting energy. The toucan uses it to pluck fruit with quick snaps, tossing pieces upward and swallowing them whole. It also steals eggs when the opportunity appears, hopping between branches with short, deliberate bursts, the bill leading every move. The bill looks like a burden, yet it's the toucan's greatest efficiency tool. Cooling system, feeding reach, and visual signal all folded into one. What seems excessive at first glance is, in reality, perfect engineering disguised as color. Its nests appear first, long swaying pouches hanging from a single canopy branch, some nearly 3 feet from top to tip. A bird with a chestnut head and glossy black body drops in, claws gripping the entrance as the entire structure swings under its weight. The yellow tail flashes once before it slips inside. Across Central America, these woven baskets have become part of the local landscape. Villagers point them out the way others point out seasonal fruits or cloud patterns. Some communities believe the trees chosen by oropendolas are signs of safe ground because the birds only settle where the canopy is stable, the wind predictable, and predators reluctant to climb. Their craft is precise. Females weave fibers, grass strips, and palm threads into tight, flexible chambers, adjusting the length depending on how exposed the site is. Longer nests deter climbing snakes. Shorter ones save energy when storms threaten. Colonies can hold dozens of nests, each swinging at a different rhythm. And a single strategic choice defines their architecture. They build close to wasp colonies. The insects drive off monkeys and hawks, giving the birds a free layer of security without lifting a feather. The twist? Those elegant nests look peaceful, but every season the colony becomes a construction zone, loud, crowded, and competitive. In a forest full of predators, survival here isn't quiet. It's engineered. A male resplendent quetzal drops through the cloud forest canopy, its tail streamers trailing behind like green light caught in motion. The head flashes metallic emerald. The breast strikes bright red in the dim air. Each slow flap sends the 2 elongated tail plumes drifting, almost floating, as the bird anchors itself on a mossy branch. For the ancient Maya, this bird was more than a symbol of beauty. Its tail feathers were treated as currency, reserved for rulers and priests, carried as proof of status. No one was allowed to kill the bird. The feathers were collected when the quetzal molted, a quiet exchange between people and the forest. Even today, its silhouette appears in textiles, carvings, and national identity across Central America. The quetzal nests inside rotting trees, softened by wood-boring insects. The male and female take turns enlarging the cavity by twisting their bodies and scraping the inner walls. They feed on wild avocados, swallowing them whole and later expelling the seeds intact, a vital role that disperses the trees across mist-covered ridges. When the male returns to the nest, his long tail streamers fold upward as he enters, nearly brushing the walls. During flight displays, those same feathers catch air and drag behind him with a soft rustle that other quetzals recognize instantly. Those famous tail plumes aren't permanent. The male loses them after breeding season, returning to the forest almost unrecognizable, a reminder that even the most iconic beauty in the Americas is something he must rebuild every year. Its red horn stands out first, bright, smooth, and perched on top of a jet-black head. It rises like a signal in the cloud forest. The bird moves along a high branch with slow, deliberate steps, showing a body built for steep terrain. White flank patches, long tail, and a heavy build that slips quietly between moss-covered limbs. No other species in the region carries that single red crest. It is the one detail that makes the horned guan instantly recognizable in the dim light of Guatemala's volcanic slopes. Highland communities have taken note of it for centuries. Living between 1,500 and 3,000 meters, the guan appears in old stories from the Sierra Madre, always tied to mist, cliffs, and the upper forest where few humans travel. Hunters once believed the horn marked a bird that never left the mountains, a guardian of the cloud belt. Today, its presence is still used by local guides as proof that a forest is old, intact, and still capable of supporting large canopy feeders. The bird's habits are slow but precise. It climbs more than it flies, using strong legs to move along ridgelines where fruiting trees cluster. Its diet is almost entirely fruit, which it swallows whole before climbing higher to rest. Breeding follows the same pattern of caution, a single egg placed in a simple nest, often on a steep branch where mammals struggle to reach. With fewer than 1,000 individuals remaining, every nesting attempt carries unusual weight. And that unexplained red horn, the feature scientists still debate, remains the one part of the species no researcher has fully decoded. It is the rare case where a bird's most distinctive trait refuses to give up its purpose. The call hits before the bird appears. A sharp metallic blast, louder than a power drill, cuts through the canopy and echoes across the cloud forest. Then, the male steps into view. Chestnut wings, white head, and 3 long black wattles hanging from the beak like swinging cords. He tilts forward, inflates his throat, and fires another explosive note that sends nearby leaves trembling. In Panama's highlands, this voice has shaped stories for generations. Farmers in the 19th century believed the sound came from distant machinery long before machines reached these valleys. Indigenous groups described the bird as a forest messenger because its call carried further than any other animal in the wet season. Even today, guides time their route by the intervals of its calls, using the bellbird's position as an auditory landmark. The behavior driving all this noise is surprisingly simple: courtship. Males choose exposed branches and use the intense volume to compete for females. The wattles sway violently each time the bird calls, acting as visual cues in the close-range display. Its diet is mostly fruit, especially from the laurel family, which it gulps whole before flying deep into the canopy to digest. During the breeding season, the species makes short, direct flights between perches, conserving energy for repeated calling. And the twist remains the same every year. The bird's love song is strong enough to make its mate flinch. The loudest note in the forest is, quite literally, a declaration of affection that can knock another bird off balance. The male flashes an electric blue that looks almost unreal. When sunlight hits the feathers, the color shifts sharply, bright at one angle, darker at another, because it isn't pigment at all, but pure structural light. If a feather is crushed into powder, the blue disappears instantly. The bird sits high in the canopy, still and compact, letting its entire body act like a mirrored surface that changes with every small movement. In lowland Panama, this shifting color became a quiet, cultural marker. Birdwatching communities refer to it as the disappearing blue, a nickname passed between guides who use the cotinga as a sign that a forest still holds large fruiting trees. Local photographers often treat a sighting like a small festival moment. Blue flash, 1 second, then gone into the canopy shadows. Its behavior is simple, almost minimalist. The blue cotinga rarely sings, rarely displays, and prefers to perch silently on exposed branches while scanning for figs and lipid-rich forest fruits. It picks a berry, swallows it whole, then hops to the next perch without hesitation. During breeding season, males gather loosely and rely almost entirely on color contrast, rather than song, making them unusual among tropical fruit eaters. The twist lies in that vanishing color. A bird that looks luminous from a distance can appear dull gray when it turns slightly away from the light. The species isn't changing shades. Your angle is. The first thing that catches the eye is the beak. Shorter than a full-sized toucan's, but shaped like a polished bamboo blade, it shows clean edges of black and ivory yellow. The bird's body glows in dense green, blending almost perfectly with the cloud forest canopy. When it hops between branches, the color shift is so subtle that the bird seems to appear and disappear with every change of light. Guatemalan highland families have known this bird for generations. It shows up around fruiting guava and wild figs, often so quietly that locals treated it as a sign the forest was still intact. In older oral stories, it appears as a watcher of orchards, a companion species that arrived each year with the first ripe fruit and left when the season ended. Its daily rhythm is calm at first glance. Gentle hops, measured bites, quick wipes of the beak on bark. But the personality shifts sharply during breeding months. The Toucanet turns opportunistic, slipping into cavities to take eggs or small nestlings from other species. It moves with short, direct flights, made for tight understory gaps, using the sturdy beak to pry into crevices for hidden insects. And that contrast is what defines it. A bird that looks harmless, almost soft, yet switches roles without hesitation. From quiet fruit feeder to nest raider whenever the forest offers an opening. The male streaks across the Bolivian highlands with a tail that looks longer than the bird itself. 2 bright red streamers trail behind the body, doubling its length and catching light with every turn. When it accelerates, those tail feathers cut the air hard and produce a sharp whoosh, a sound strong enough to be heard several meters away. Few hummingbirds leave an acoustic trace when they dive. This one does. In the valleys around La Paz and Sucre, the species has long been tied to the Puna landscapes. Local communities simply call it El Cometa, a reference to the bright streak it leaves as it crosses sunlit slopes. Sightings often mark the start of the blooming season, when the bird returns to feed on chuquiraga and other high-elevation flowers. Its biology pushes the edge of what a hummingbird body can carry. The long tail is a burden in strong winds, forcing the male to compensate with rapid wing beats and precise braking when approaching flowers. It feeds by hovering close to shrubs and cactus blooms, inserting its beak quickly before lifting away to avoid predators. During courtship, males climb sharply above the canopy, fold their wings, and drop at high speed, tail streamers pulling a louder dive note than most hummingbirds can produce. The paradox defines the species. A tail so impractical for survival that it becomes the reason females choose it. The bird flies harder for it, and because of that effort, the tail stays. A male rises above the understory with two long filaments extending from his tail, each ending in a round, dark blue disc. They swing independently as he hovers, not like normal feathers, but like small weights suspended on flexible rods. When he climbs and stalls his wings, the discs flip forward and backward in tight arcs, catching the light in short flashes. No other hummingbird on Earth carries a structure this precise. In northern Peru, villages along the Utcubamba Valley have treated the bird as a symbol of the cloud forest's rarity. Guides point to its arrival during flowering peaks, and old stories describe the discs as tokens from the high ridges, appearing only when the forest is healthy enough to support them. To residents, seeing one means the hillside is still intact. Its movements run at extreme speed. The male can beat its wings around 600 times per second during courtship, holding position while the discs rotate around him in measured steps. He feeds quickly from native blooms, darts back to a perch, and guards small patches of territory from other hummingbirds. Breeding depends on these displays. The male climbs vertically, stops mid-air, and swings the spatules in front of him with rapid, controlled strokes. The final impression comes from the design itself. A bird smaller than a human hand carries two ornaments that look almost impossible to manage. Yet he flies with them, fights with them, and wins mates because of them. A burst of orange cuts through the dim cloud forest, brighter than any fruit or flower in the understory. The male stands rigid on a branch, its helmet-shaped crest covering almost the entire head, turning the bird into a single block of color. Each small movement sends the crest catching light from every angle, making the bird look almost electric against the dark trunks and hanging vines. For people in the Peruvian Andes, this sight is tied to old stories. Villages once believed the bird's sudden appearance signaled the start of the rainy season, and its feathers were used in traditional festivals long before Europeans reached the region. Even today, the species remains one of the symbols of Andean cloud forests, recognized instantly by guides and farmers who live along the steep valleys. When breeding begins, the theatrics intensify. Males gather in communal arenas called leks, where they hop, bow, snap their wings, and flash their crests in rapid sequences. The calls bounce between trees, as dozens compete at once, each trying to hold the center perch, the position that gives the highest chance of being chosen. Females visit briefly, select a mate, and vanish into the darker parts of the forest to build simple nests on rock walls and narrow ledges. And the striking part is how little the male's showmanship influences anything beyond that moment. After the dance, his role ends entirely. The female raises the chicks alone, leaving the brilliantly colored performer to return to the lek, waiting for the next chance to... A tall figure rises above the wetlands, standing over a meter high, with a heavy bill and a bare black head that seems carved from stone. The white body looks almost too large for the thin legs holding it steady. When it lifts its wings, the span matches the reach of a grown man, and the red neck pouch tightens as the bird prepares to take flight. Indigenous communities across the Pantanal have long viewed the jabiru as a symbol of the floodplain's rhythm. Its arrival marks the shift into the season when water spreads across grasslands, bringing fish and life back into every channel. Old stories describe it as a guardian of wetlands, a watcher that appears whenever the rivers rise. The bird's feeding is direct and forceful. It steps through shallow water, neck extended, striking downward with a snap that echoes across open marsh. It pulls up fish, frogs, and even small reptiles, shaking mud free before swallowing. Its flights are slow and heavy, yet the wings hold steady across long distances, letting the bird search wide areas for deeper pools as the season changes. For nesting, pairs return to massive stick platforms, structures the size of bathtubs, built high in trees to avoid rising water. Some nests are used for years, growing larger each cycle. One quiet fact stands out. Despite its size and power, the jabiru's bond with its mate is steady and persistent. Year after year, they return to the same tree, the same nest, and raise their young above the flood. In a landscape that changes constantly, their loyalty never does. The bird hits the trunk with a sharp metallic crack, and the camera catches its platinum crest snapping upward like a flame. Each strike sends bark splintering off in short bursts, revealing a woodpecker built around contrast. Dark body, pale crown, and movements that land with drummer-like precision. When it lifts its head, the crest stays raised for a second longer than expected, giving it the look of a rock stage performer frozen mid-solo. In parts of central Brazil, people compare that pale crest to old 80s concert posters, loud, rebellious, unmistakable even from a distance. The bird shows up in local crafts and school drawings, not because it is common, but because children latch on to that blonde mohawk silhouette immediately. It has become a small cultural mascot for the Cerrado's shrubby woodlands, a bird that looks too dramatic for such a quiet habitat. Its biology pushes past the dramatic. The bird works through dead trunks systematically, tapping, pausing, then drilling when it hears cavities hiding termites or wood-boring larvae. It moves with sudden, fast hops around the bark, searching for resonance changes. Nesting happens in deep cavities it carves itself, and pairs defend those nest trees with surprising force for a medium-sized woodpecker. When feeding chicks, the adults deliver insects in steady intervals, cleaning the cavity between visits to keep parasites low. And the twist is simple. For all that attitude and all that style, the pale-crested woodpecker isn't trying to stand out. It's trying to vanish. That pale crest, its signature, blends perfectly with sun-bleached trunks, turning a rock star silhouette into one of the best camouflage tricks in the Brazilian Cerrado. The grass rises and falls in the morning wind as the male strange-tailed tyrant lifts into view, the two outer tail feathers extending far beyond his body. Each one is wide and ribbon-like, doubling his length and turning every movement into effort. When he climbs, the feathers pump up and down in tight arcs, part display, part burden, giving him a silhouette unlike anything else in the Iberá grasslands. In Corrientes, this bird has long been tied to the open plains. Old ranch notebooks mention its return each year as a small sign that the season has settled and that the grassland is ready for nesting. Today, it survives mainly in the Iberá wetlands, one of the last strongholds of native grass. The population, now estimated between 6,000 and 15,000 birds, continues to decline as open fields shrink into farms and cattle pasture. The tale explains both the risk and the appeal. Its length and width create heavy drag, slowing the male each time he launches from the grass. He relies on one strong push to lift off, exposing himself to predators that move quickly over open ground. But in courtship, the same tail becomes essential. He rises above the grass and pumps the feathers in a rhythmic flight display, simple, repetitive, and convincing to females that watch from below. Despite the name tyrant, the bird's aggression shows mainly in how it defends territory at dawn. Between short chases, the male gives a light, rising "preep, tuit," a call locals still recognize at first light. In a landscape that has lost much of its native life, this small voice remains one of the sounds that marks an intact morning on the plains. A red bill catches the next flash, the only one of its kind among Amazon parrots, giving the species a signature mix that locals compare to a glass of forest wine moving through the araucaria trees. Across rural Argentina and the remnants of the Atlantic forest, people have long noticed how closely this parrot listens. Farmers say it studies conversations, and old market recordings from small towns often include its voice in the background. Clean whistles, short phrases, and rising tones copied from vendors calling across the square. A few individuals can mimic phone alerts or kitchen noises well enough to confuse anyone in the next room. They learn fast, and they keep those sounds for years. Life in the forest follows an older rhythm. These parrots often shelter in abandoned bee nests, slipping into the empty cavities for safety during storms or when predators are near. Their diet depends on tall araucaria trees, especially the hard seeds that fall in heavy clusters each season. And with fewer than 3,000 birds left across Brazil, Paraguay, and Argentina, every patch of forest becomes important. Mated pairs stay together for life, defending their territory with soft duets that rise and fall in overlapping notes, two voices marking one home. A rare color, a rare voice, and a population running out of time. In the quiet parts of the Atlantic forest, a pair of red-billed forest wine parrots is still singing in harmony, holding on to a tradition that fewer and fewer trees can echo back. The first thing that hits is the contrast. A white body sliding across cold southern water, and above it, a black neck that looks carved from another species entirely. The red knob at the base of the bill lifts slightly as the bird tilts its head, and the chick on its back tightens its grip with a small shuffle of down. Across Patagonia and the Chilean fjords, this swan has become part of local memory. Families along the wetlands speak of the swan with the mask, a bird that appears in winter stories and children's drawings long before they ever see one in real life. Shepherd communities track their arrival each season as reliably as the turning of the wind. In the water, the adult hesitates for a moment, then pivots and pushes forward with a sharp kick. The plumage stays immaculate, even in muddy marshes. The pair moves as a coordinated unit, dipping for aquatic plants and grazing on soft stems just below the surface. During breeding, both parents guard one oversized nest built from reeds, and once the chicks hatch, they climb onto the adults' backs to stay warm and safe from predators. A single parent can carry 2 or 3 at once, adjusting posture so the young don't slip into the water. The final image lingers, a bright white body gliding away, the black neck held high, and a tiny head peeking out from behind the curve of the feathers. Too small to understand the landscape, but carried confidently through it. The male flashes an intense orange-red crown that ignites the dim understory of these Pacific islands, each feather catching light with sharp metallic brightness. His wings snap in short bursts as he holds position in front of a flowering shrub, body rigid, crown lifted, every movement deliberate and controlled. For people living on the Juan Fernández archipelago, this bird is part of a local identity shaped by isolation. It appears in school emblems, conservation signs, and island folklore as the small guardian of a land cut off from the mainland by hundreds of kilometers of ocean. Its presence is a reminder that life here follows its own evolutionary path. Unlike mainland hummingbirds, The fire crown defends tight feeding territories with unexpected aggression. Males dart straight at rivals, deliver short collisions, then return to the same perch with unwavering precision. The species relies heavily on native shrubs and trees found nowhere else, and its population, restricted to a single island, has hovered in the low hundreds. Females look entirely different, with green upperparts and white-spotted underparts, making this one of the most sexually dimorphic hummingbirds in the region. What stays with anyone who sees it is simple. On a remote island surrounded by empty water, one small bird carries a crown brighter than anything the mainland can offer. Pastel tones snap into view as the burnished-buff tanager drops onto a thin branch. Its buff-orange body catches the light in short, sharp flashes, and the blue crown shifts tone each time it turns its head. The bird hops once, stiffens, then darts forward in a quick, low glide. Movement precise, clipped, and territorial. In rural Uruguay, locals often call it El Pastel Bravo, the gentle-colored bird with the temper of a fighter. Farmers recognize its presence at the edges of orchards, treating it almost like a tiny seasonal marker. When this tanager arrives, fruiting trees are entering their best weeks. Despite its soft palate, the species defends feeding spots with sudden bursts of aggression. Males chase intruders in straight-line attacks, wings beating in sharp pulses. The diet is a mix of insects and ripe fruit, but competition peaks when figs or guavas ripen. The tanager's calls, short metallic ticks, ease in frequency during these disputes, and the bird's posture tightens, head lowered, tail flicking in quick angles. During breeding, pairs work in tight cycles, gathering small clumps of fibers and moss to build a compact cup hidden in mid-canopy shrubs. For all its pastel calm, this is one of Uruguay's most confrontational songbirds, proof that soft colors say nothing about how hard a creature is willing to hold its ground. White feathers cut through the open grasslands, bright against every shade of green and brown below. The white monjita hovers for a second, drops straight down, then snaps back into the air with a clean, practiced motion. Nothing on its body breaks the color. The bird is solid white from crown to tail, a shape that stands out instantly in Uruguayan light. For generations, people in the countryside have noticed it long before they could identify any other species. Children point at it from far across a field because its uniform color makes it look almost unreal, like a creature stepping out of a different rule set than the rest of the grassland birds. Behavior reveals the truth behind that look. The white monjita hunts with short, decisive flights, watching from fences, posts, or isolated branches. It drops on insects with quick vertical strikes and returns to its perch without hesitation. The species defends open territory aggressively, chasing intruders much larger than itself. Its white plumage doesn't help it hide, so it relies entirely on speed, angles, and commitment during each attack. Breeding pairs keep their nesting area clear with the same energy, returning to the same open habitats year after year. The bird looks peaceful at a glance, but every movement shows a sharper intention. White may seem gentle, yet in Uruguay's grasslands, this bird behaves exactly like the mini-boss people joke about. Calm until the moment something steps into its zone. Bright yellow eyes lock onto the lens as the bird tilts its head. the plush black crest lifting in short, sharp pulses. The blue wings flick once. The throat patch darkens. Every micro-movement feels calculated, like it's weighing who it can fool next. Across rural Paraguay, people joke that this bird knows too much. Farmers tell stories about flocks gathering near windows to eavesdrop, or stealing laundry pegs just to provoke a reaction. It has become a small cultural icon of mischief, recognized instantly by its mask-like face and the soft crest that gives the species its name. This jay works in tight family groups and communicates through a string of sharp clicks and rasping calls. It slips into fruiting trees, digs into bark for insects, and raids unattended nests with precision. The species can remember the locations of food stashes for weeks. It imitates short sounds from its surroundings, not perfectly, but well enough to confuse rivals and disrupt other birds' alarm calls. When it pauses and stares straight ahead, the look is unmistakable. Someone but because people grow up hearing it exists yet rarely see it. Birdwatchers travel to Antioquia and Risaralda the same way others chase eclipses. Brief, unpredictable, unforgettable. Its name appears on murals in small mountain towns, where the bird stands not as a symbol, but as proof that Colombia still holds secrets even experts struggle to witness twice. Its biology explains the mystery. This tanager stays high in mossy crowns, slipping between bromeliads and epiphyte clumps at a pace that gives almost no second chances. It feeds in fast bursts, grabbing insects and soft fruit before vanishing into dense branches. Pairs hold small territories and rarely vocalize loudly, so most detections come from a sudden color flicker rather than sound. Surveys show how elusive it is. Even in prime habitat, hours can pass without a single confirmed view. And the twist? Despite looking like a bird designed to be famous, it remains one of the hardest in Colombia to film. Beauty isn't the reason it's rare on camera. Male steadies himself on a thin branch. His feet tighten, his body leans forward, and then it begins. The sideways slide that earned him the nickname, the Michael Jackson of the forest. He shuffles left, snaps right, pauses for half a second, and repeats the move in a clean, frictionless glide. The yellow legs flash once. The branch trembles. The red cap stays perfectly still. In Venezuela's lowland forests, males gather in small leks where each performer claims a short stretch of branch. Nothing more than a natural stage. They feed on soft fruit in rapid bursts, swallowing whole berries to keep their energy high, then darting back to the same perch to resume the dance. Females watch from above, silent and still, judging timing, balance, and stamina. Among manakins, this species is one of the larger, and its vivid red cap becomes the focal point of every courtship attempt. Behind the playful look is a clear purpose. The entire breeding season depends on this dance. No clean slide means no mate, and their role in the forest stretches beyond display. Every fruit they swallow becomes a seed dropped far from the parent tree, helping regrow the understory they depend on. In a habitat where many species fade when forests shrink, the red-capped manakin continues to spread the trees it needs simply by doing what it does best: dancing, feeding, and repeating the rhythm that keeps the forest renewing itself. A tiny bird with a bright red cap, surviving one perfect slide at a time. These birds are more than beautiful. They're the true flags of nature, rising in the sky instead of on flagpoles, carried by feathers instead of cloth. Pyramids will weather, monuments will fade, but the colors of these birds will keep moving through the air, across millions of years of evolution, and across every border humans ever drew. If you felt the heartbeat of this continent in their wings, then do one simple thing. Like, subscribe, and turn on the bell. The next sky is waiting, and the next feathered flag is already on its way. Thank you for watching BBTV Official. See you in the next episodes.